On the other side of a storm is the strength that comes from navigating through it. Raise your sail and begin. Just because you're struggling doesn't mean that you're failing. I think sometimes people equate struggling with failure. It's not. It isn't even close. In fact, if you're struggling, it tells me that you're still in the game. We don't see these incredible opportunities first because every opportunity that you and I have is surrounded by a problem. I've never gone to an opportunity that I didn't have to go to the door of problems first. So the next time you have an obstacle, a difficulty, an adversity in your life, don't allow the crisis to numb you. Be alive, learn, feel, fail, learn. That's what it's all about if you want to make this difficult time a good time. I just want you to know that there's a hero within you. I know there is. And during this tough time, let the hero out. Let people see the best of you, your highest aspirations. You be the one who's the lifter and the encourager.
Hi, Mark Cole here. In the 20 years that I have been working alongside John Maxwell, we have never seen a time as critical as this for values-based, people-centered leadership. John Maxwell says that crisis separates pretenders from players. Always has, always will. That's the purpose of the Leadership When It Matters the Most series. John Maxwell has felt that in a time like this, that we need to be offering value and extending opportunity for people that want to make a difference. You see, crisis requires leadership that gives context, leadership that will step up and lead when others won't. Now, our goal is today in this time, as you spend a little time with us, that we add value to you so that you will multiply value to others. I hope that over the next few minutes, as John Maxwell shares a lesson that he has prepared for you right now, leadership when it matters the most, that you will take note, that you will take hope, and that you will take charge. Today is the day that in this crisis, you can make a significant difference. Now, it's my pleasure to bring to you John C. Maxwell.
Hi, John Maxwell here. I'm so glad to be with you today. I really look forward to these Mondays coming and just sharing with you what I'm seeing as a leader, because all of us as leaders are doing our very best, not only to understand the times and answer the questions. A lot of them we sure can't answer yet, that's for sure. But it's just my way and the John Maxwell Enterprise way of serving you, adding value to you, coming into your life. Hopefully, maybe in our time together, there's maybe, one thing that you'll just get a great takeaway from and say, hey, this is going to help me, this is going to help my team. And if that happens, we're very happy, because that's the only reason I'm doing this today. I'm doing it for you, and I'm doing it to help you to help yourself and help all the people that you help, because you are major people that make a major difference in a lot of people. This is kind of a special day for Mark Cole, who is the CEO of the John Maxwell Enterprise. 20 years ago today, Mark interviewed and came on our team, literally started at the bottom of one of our companies and worked his way up to literally becoming the man now. And everybody, including myself, we just ask him what we're supposed to do and kind of answer him, and he leads the way. But Mark, to you, happy 20th anniversary. This is a big day for all of us. We're all better because of you, and thank you very, very much. And then I'm very excited because today I'm sending in my manuscript to the publisher on my transformation book, Change Your World. And anybody that knows me well really knows that this is really the heart of who I am. I just truly believe that people can get better and will get better if they learn and live good values. And we have led a major transformation movement through our nonprofit organizations, the John Maxwell Leadership Foundation and Equip. And so we've seen literally millions of people sit down around transformation tables in small groups and study and learn values and help each other and just get a lot better. So the kind of the how-to book on transformation and kind of what I know and feel and believe and learn and do is it's going to the publisher, and I'm very excited about it. And so those are two just kind of things I wanted to share with you as my friends as I began to teach. And this lesson I'm excited about, this lesson really was birthed out of a conversation a very close friend of mine, Chris Hodges, and I had. It was a couple of weeks ago, and so we were going back and forth, and he's just basically saying, John, let's talk about the future, and what do you think it's looking like? And so we always had a conversation that we always have stimulating kind of growth conversations when we get together, and so he got me thinking, and that's, you always have a good friend when out of a conversation they kind of stir your heart a little bit and kind of stimulate your mind to kind of think about what they said. And so out of that conversation, I kind of started working on this lesson. And what I think I want to say to you at the very beginning is I can't really position for the future because there's still too many unknowns out there. But what I can do is I can position myself for the future. And I think that's kind of the first thing that we need to do. It's kind of like, put the horse before the cart. I think I need to position myself, or as Mark Cole shared with me, he said, be the future instead of see the future. And that's kind of what I want to talk to you about today. How do I be the person I need to be now that really does prepare me for what I'm going to see tomorrow? John Wooden, my mentor, said so many times to me, John, when opportunity comes, it's too late to prepare. And trust me, out of this crisis, there's going to be a lot of opportunity. I know that for an absolute fact. So that's not the question, will there be opportunities? There will be challenges, by the way, too, but challenges and opportunity go right together like success and failure. So that's not the question, will there be opportunities? The question is, how do I position myself in order for me to be the person I need to be so that as I see the future, I can really seize the moment? So let me just share with you just kind of an insight, something that I haven't really shared with anybody, but this is how I reflect, and here's how I write. I take a subject like this, okay, how do I maximize myself in the present? And what I do is I do two things when I get ready, when I want to reflect, when I want to think, when I want to begin to put words on my legal pad, when I want to begin to birth something that I'm either feeling, thinking. And what I do is, I first of all, I get a question that frames what I want to think and meditate and reflect on. It's kind of like when I write a book, first thing you do is develop a thesis for that book, and everything in that book has to go to that thesis and come out of that thesis. Well, I do the same thing when I reflect and think. And so as I'm going through my questions, here's the question I wrote to prepare this lesson. The question's very simple. What am I doing right now that is right for tomorrow? What am I doing right at this moment that's going to be right for tomorrow? So that's the framing questions. And then what I do is I don't even write sentences. I just write one word, just one word. And I'll put several on. Maybe in this lesson, I put down maybe 16 or 17 words. That's all I do. I'll put on the left-hand column, just words that come under and fit under the framing of that question. And the reason I do that is I don't even start with a phrase or a sentence, is I start with a word because I want it to keep me on track. I want the word to be like an arrow that hits the bullseye of the target that I'm trying to hit. So these words are just like arrows that I'm trying to aim at the target. But here's what I do. I work the word in my mind and my heart, and I don't put a sentence down at the beginning because I don't want to get my mind going in just one direction. I just want to focus on the word and then let it begin to be, for lack of a better word, birthed within me. And then I'll start to work off of that word and maybe do a phrase, maybe a sentence, and then I onto that begin to attach things to it that fit that word, that phrase, or that sentence. And that's exactly, and I'm just sharing that with you because many of you have to teach, you have to lead, and if you have to do any writing or developing, it's not the only way, but it's just my way of taking nothing and beginning to birth something out of it that hopefully helps people. So that's what I did with this exercise. And so I'm going to give you some words today Now, the challenge with this lesson is I don't have enough time to give you all the words because I put down 16. I think there are probably 10 to 12 that really stick. In other words, those arrows hit the target. The other ones, missed, okay? But so I'm going to give you, I think I could get maybe time for maybe 5 in today. But I want to give them to you, and I promise you that next week I'll go back and I'll give you some more words that'll just help you again to be the person you need to be today to position you to what you need to see tomorrow. Here we go. So what are some of the words that I embrace and practice right now to position myself correctly for tomorrow? Okay, the first word is humility. And again, I'm not sure, I want to say it's C.S. Lewis, but my favorite definition of humility, in fact, Chris texted it over to me the other day, and when I saw it, I thought, yeah, I've used the same one for a long time. Great minds think alike. But I love this phrase of humility, and that is not thinking less of yourself, but just thinking of yourself less. And the reason I like that so much is, and let me tell you what humility does. I mean, we could talk about humus and the earth, and there's a whole bunch of stuff I can talk about, but let me tell you what humility really does. When I have a sense of humility, it removes me, John Maxwell, from the center of the picture. In other words, no longer am I the main person. No longer is it all about me. And I begin to understand that life and all the good things about life include everyone else. And I'm in the picture, but I'm just a part of the picture, and I'm not in the center of the picture. And I think for leaders, this is absolutely essential for me and for all of us to understand that yes, we may be the voice, and we may even be the picture that everybody sees, the person that everybody sees, but really it's not about us. And one of the things I love about a crisis is that every time we're in a crisis, it removes us from being in the middle. It again gives us a perspective that is so much bigger than who we are. And so much bigger than what we are. Again, I'll make this illustration short because I've shared it many times, and that is when I was in my 30s, I had a mentor who sat me down one day, and we had a 3-hour long conversation around the table. And he basically said, John, you're very gifted. And so people are going to come around and they're going to talk to you about how wonderful you are and how amazing you are. And he said, I just want you to know there's nothing amazing about you. It's your gifts that are amazing. Not you. It's your gifts that are amazing. And people see you in your giftedness. And so therefore they say, oh my goodness, I read books and I look at him speak. And he said, understand this, John. What they're amazed at is their gifts, but they can't separate the gifts from you, so they think you're amazing. He said, always remember, they're gifts. You didn't earn them. You don't deserve them. They were given to you. They could be taken away from you. They're from God. They're gifts, John. They're not yours. Now, steward those gifts, maximize those gifts, work hard to reach your potential in those gifts, but they're not your gifts. They were given to you. They're not yours. It's not about you. That was life-changing to me. And to this day, I still carry that. I mean, now that's 40 years ago. To this day, I still, when I speak at a convention with 20,000 people and everybody's on their feet giving me a standing ovation, I wave to the crowd and I give them the Maxwell smile because I'm their friend, and I'm walking off stage and I say, John, it's not about you. They're applauding your giftedness. Has nothing to do with you. Now, that's a real sense of what humility does and what a crisis does. I love to visit presidential libraries. I've been to every presidential library in America. Some of them I've been to 2, 3, up to 4 times. But if you ever go to the John Fitzgerald Kennedy Library in Boston, I've been to that, I think, 4 times. But it's a great one. If you ever go to that, on his desk in his office, he had a plaque that he looked at every day as he was president of the United States. And the plaque said, "Oh God, thy sea is so great and my boat is so small." Love that. What was JFK doing and saying with that plaque on his desk in the Oval Office? He was basically saying that I keep this plaque, these words in front of me for 2 reasons. You see, the words of that plaque express awareness and dependence. And awareness in the fact that John Kennedy was aware that there were things that were much greater than he was. I mean, your sea is so big, my boat is so small. There was an awareness that there was a greater than him. And there was a dependence that he was going to have to depend upon God. He was going to have to depend on faith. He was going to have to depend on someone greater than him as a leader to get him through the process. Let me tell you what my favorite time was being an American. As I look back at my 73 years, I can point to you when I was more proud to be an American than any other time in my life. It was right after 9/11. And you remember that incredible, catastrophic event. What happened because of that crisis is we saw people come together like I have never seen people come together in America ever. And the ultimate was, again, all of Congress and Senate on the steps of Congress joining hands and singing God Bless America. And I mean, if you see politicians joining hands and crossing the aisles, you know that there's something pretty amazing happening. Now, this is what a crisis does. Don't miss this. Don't miss it. In fact, 13 days after 9/11, I was in New York City because I'd had the privilege of having part of raising $6 million for some of the victims. And so they asked me to come and they gave me a VIP tour. I mean, the smoke was still smoldering from the buildings, et cetera. And I can tell you the humility and the humbleness of the people was not, I've been in New York all my life. And I promise you that they were incredibly touched. They understood that the answers that they thought they had and all the things that they thought they could do were all thrown out the window. They didn't have answers. They had a lot of questions. And we were removing us from the middle of the picture. I'm telling you, it's healthy when we are not in the middle of the picture. So as I'm positioning myself for the future, I want to keep that spirit of humility in my life, that it's not about me, never has been about me, it's about others. The second word is adaptability. And this is a huge word for us to really think on and live in, because what crisis does is crisis move us. They always do. Everybody in America right now is moved. No one is in the position they were 2 months ago. Everybody's been moved. And what a crisis does is it presents detours in our life. In other words, pretty much we get our life on automatic, and there are just certain things we just do and routes that we traveled and paths that we take. And so therefore what happens is all of a sudden we get detours and we say, oh my gosh, I can't go this way anymore. Now here's what I want you to catch. I don't want you to miss this because this is beautiful. So we take the detour. Now we're going into new territory. What do we want to do when we're on a detour? We want to, as quickly as possible, get back to the route that we know so we can proceed to the goal that we have. That's what we want to do. Here's what I'm saying. Take advantage. Please take advantage of the detour. In fact, don't hurry back, because you're going to see things you've never seen before. You're going to go places you've never been before. You're going to be able to look at things, understand things, have a different perspective than you ever had before. And the reason that you're going to be able to do that is because you're on a detour. When I wrote the book Leader Shift, it was all about the fact that leaders that are most successful are leaders that are most adaptable, flexible, agile. They're able to see the moment, but they're also able to seize the moment. There's a teaching of Gandhi that I want to give you right now that I have held very close to my heart for the last 4 or 5 years. And so I want to pass it on to you. But it talks about growth, adaptability, change within our lives. So let me read to you what Gandhi said. Constant development is the law of life. And a man who always tries to maintain his dogmas in order to appear consistent drives himself into a false position. Gandhi just basically says, if we're growing and if we're learning, if we're trying to hold on to certain things that we held on to 20 and 30 years ago, because of people are expecting that type of behavior out of us or that type of attitude, whatever it might be. He said what happens is it begins to cause us to act what we really aren't. And it puts us into a false position. In my world, we'd probably be called a hypocrite. Now, that false position phrase just grabbed me so much that I wrote down what I think false position is. And let me read it to you. It's a place where I try to cling to my old views in order to appear consistent while I realize that within myself, I've outgrown them and they no longer represent who I am. Wow. Now, because my life has been on a pretty fast speed growth process because I do it intentionally, I relate to so much this. Because I could look back at myself 20 years ago and hardly recognize myself because of my growth and my development and new things I've learned and things I used to just hold on to. I don't hold on to them at all anymore. Why? They were good for me when I had them, but I've learned something better. I was on a detour and I learned something I never learned about that part of the area of my life. And so I took that and it helped me, and it allowed me to change profitably and personally and progressively in my life. And I say that to you because I think that that's what a crisis does to all of us. The other day I was thinking about all the times I have reinvented myself and made major changes in my life to position myself to continue to add value to people to a greater dimension. And I've had 9 personal changes, reinventions of who I am. Now, what I want you to understand is that, catch this, my values have stayed the same, okay? So during a crisis, my values don't move. In fact, during a crisis, my values just get stronger and more of an anchor to my life because they become validated. In a crisis, my values get validated, but let me tell you something, my views change. My perspective changes every time. So I wrote down in my notes as I'm teaching you this today is I just wrote, this is for me. Maybe you'll like it well enough to make it for you. Hopefully you will. I just wrote down for myself, I want the detour tour. I want a detour tour. I want a new way. I want a new way of seeing, understanding, thinking, and doing things. And I can promise you, you position yourself very, very well if you have that adaptability and say, yeah, I want the detour tour. I really want it. Chris, the other day, again, in our interaction, because again, he was very catalytic in this teaching, shared with me, he said, when you want to make changes and be adaptable, he said, look to your team and work it through your team. But he said, don't ask the people that you're trying to change if they want change, because the people you're trying to change, they don't want change at all. They want to stay in their comfort zone. They want it to be as it always was. And so then he quoted Henry Ford that said, if I asked people what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. I just love that. In other words, we want a faster horse. Well, a faster horse isn't what the people needed, but that's all the people could think of. Being adaptable allows us to go beyond the faster horse mindset and say, wait a minute, I took a detour the other day, and guess what? I'd never been there before, and I had some thoughts I never had before, and I think a couple of them really are going to help me change and be different. Okay. So we've had 2 words so far that really position us, I think, to be the people that we really want to be during this time: humility and adaptability. Let me give you the 3rd one: open-handedness. You see, during a crisis, the first thing that happens to us is change happens very quickly, and we are kind of blindsided like we were here. And so we began to say, okay, what's going to happen to me? The first question, whenever there's any kind of catastrophic change, the first question isn't what's going to happen to you. Can I tell you something? I'm not worried about you right now. The question is, what's going to happen to me? Okay, back to that humility. We're back in the middle now, okay? We're centered. We're not off-center at all. And what's going to happen to me? And that's very natural. And what is also natural is when we ask what's going to happen to me, because we're not certain, we begin to want to hold on to what we know, hold on to what we have, and it turns in usually to clinging onto this, and we get what I would consider to be a scarcity mindset. Several years ago, I was having a conversation, dinner with Mark Victor Hansen, and he taught me this concept, and it's just huge. We were at the table, and he took his hands, and he went like this, and he said, people that are closed-handed, not open-handed, closed-handed, scarcity thinking, he said what they do is they get something important to them, and they just hold on to it, and they say, I can't let it go. I've got to keep it. This is my security, and I don't want to be without it. And he said, let me tell you something about closed-handed people. He said, opportunity comes by, but I can't reach out my hand to take the opportunity that's present because my hands are closed. I don't have any room for opportunity. I don't have any room for promise. I don't have any room for possibility in my life. I'm doing this, and as long as I'm holding on to this closed-handed, I can't receive what's best for me. And then he said, this is the way we're supposed to live. Just open-handed. When my hand is open, if something comes by me that is beautiful or wonderful, immediately I can take it. Why can I take it? Because I'm open-handed. So let me give you 4 thoughts on open-handedness. I just developed this lesson last night, this part of the lesson, and I can hardly wait to really develop it. So I'm just kind of giving it to you. It's just fresh. Okay, it's not great, but it's fresh and it'll work. And by the way, take it, make it better. That's what I do. I give people stuff, and I expect them to go do something better with it than what I gave it to them. I wish they'd just bring it back on the better so that I can have the good too. But anyway, here we go. 4 thoughts on open-handedness. The first thought are these 2 words, sowing strategy. Okay, we're talking about sowing seed now, okay? Sowing strategy. Here's what my sowing strategy is to keep open-handed. Sow good every day, but sow more good on difficult days. And then when I say sow good every day, what I'm saying is always sow every day, always sow. Robert Louis Stevens said, I judge the success of my day by the seeds I sow, not by the harvest I reap. So what I'm talking about now is sow every day. That's it. But during difficult days, now this is timing. During crisis, during the coronavirus, right now, sow even more. Because you see, timing gives you your big ROI, always does. That's why if you're the first to help, you stand out above all the rest that help. The first to help stands above all the rest to help. Why? Because you were the first on the scene. Timing is essential. So in sowing and being open-handed in receiving, so in that process of sowing, just do it every day, but when it gets tough, really do it, okay? That's huge. Okay, the next 2 thoughts on open-handedness are what I would call just the benefits of being open-handed, having an open-handed life versus a closed-handed life. The first thought is what I call the washing hands practice, and it's very simple, very simple. When the right hand washes the left hand, guess what? The right hand gets clean too. See the moment that I bring my hands together and I say, okay, I need to wash my left hand. So I take my right and I'm washing it. It's not just a win for the left hand, it's a win for the right hand. It's a win-win. And that's what open-handedness always is. It's a win-win. People that aren't open-handed, they think that they're going to lose it and never get a return. So they close and hold on, and because they close and hold on, they don't get all those opportunities. They become a reservoir, not a river. Here's the second kind of benefit of open-handedness. It's the candle principle, okay? And the candle principle just simply says, we cannot hold a candle to light another person's path without having our path lit also. It's just a fact. If I'm holding a candle for you to help you in your path, guess what? My path is being lit also with the candle. So when I share the candle, when I wash my hands, there's a benefit win-win. Again, I mentioned briefly that this is Mark Cole's 20th anniversary of being with the John Maxwell Enterprise. And Mark has done that. He's been the right hand who's washed the hands of all of us, and his hands have been washed too. He's been the holder of the candle that's lit the path, and his path has been lit also. And he's a beautiful example of when you serve when you give, when you're generous. It all comes back to you. One more perspective truth, and that is, and this is a perspective truth, that is how we view things is how we do things. So the scarcity mindset, the closed, not open hand, but closed hand, the closed-handed mindset, basically when it looks at something or someone that's needy, kind of looks in their hand a little bit, peeks in there and says, what can I spare? I don't know. Do I have anything that I can spare? Where an open hand, what can I share? World of difference. It's Ella Wilcox's poem. There's two kind of people. There are two kind of people on earth, I say. There's two kinds of people: the one who lifts and the one who leans. And basically, she asked in that poem, who lifts and who leans? Wow, that's huge. Who's lifting? Who's leaning? If you're lifting, you're open-handed. You're helping people. You know, Chris Hodges, again, because he's with me and interacting with me on this lesson, and it, has that huge, incredible congregation in Birmingham, Alabama. And when the coronavirus hit, they said, okay, hey, we won't be using our parking lot for church services. We can't gather that way, so we're going to use our parking lot and let it out and let the information out, and we'll test for the corovirus. And they became the biggest testing site in Alabama. I think in maybe 2 or 3 days, 2,000 people were tested. And then he was talking to me the other day, and this is all open-handed. This is why he's so incredibly blessed, because he has an open-handed mindset. He said, the Red Cross, which has the vehicle, it has the resources to help people, but he said, John, they lack buildings and they lack volunteers. And guess what I have? I've got buildings, I got volunteers. So that we gave them all of our buildings, and we took our people and said, we'll be volunteers for the Red Cross. And it's just absolutely amazing it's happening. And what he does, if you watch him online on Sundays, is he shows, what he does is he shows all the things they're doing in the Birmingham area to add value and to help people, and all the community projects they're involved in. And he said, our online giving, it's up. It's higher than it's ever been before. Well, of course it's up, because people are seeing he's open-handed. He's passing it on to others. It's absolutely huge. Okay, let's go on. Words to practice that position us well so that we could be the person we need to be, so that when we see what we need to see, it matches. The fourth word is discussion. Huge word, discussion. And why I love this word is because to position yourself, the best thing to do is to get around other people and have conversations and discussions that allow you to learn from each other. I can still remember a couple of years ago on an executive summary call with the CEO, I think at the second largest software company in the world. And so we were talking about, I was asking him some leadership questions. One of the questions I asked him is, I said, what is your greatest growth tool? I mean, of all the things you do to grow yourself, what is the one that just kind of helps you to grow more than any other? And he shared with me discussions. And basically what he said is, I get a group of people, about 6 of us, and we spend an evening together, usually discussing a subject. And then he gave me a blueprint. I'm passing it on to you right now. He said, basically, here are the guidelines for the discussion. Pick a subject. Make sure, he said, that you have everybody on the same level. And what he said with that I thought was very interesting. He said, John, please understand, I'm just talking now. I'm not trying to be unkind, but he said, John, you got to make sure you got people on your level of thinking and people that are dealing with your level of issues. If you quote, bring somebody that is lesser than that, they'll just drag the discussion down, because they haven't traveled where you are, and so they're not aware of what you know. And so therefore, for everything that you're wanting to discuss, they've got 7 questions. So he said, you got to make sure that you've got them pretty much all on the same level as far as what we do and how we think and our success, et cetera. Everyone on the same level. He said, everyone contributes. He said, it's absolutely a guideline. Everybody throws their hat in the ring. And he said, why? Is because we're looking for different perspectives. He said, you got to have everybody contribute so you get different perspectives. Number 4, he said, everyone increases everyone. In other words, what we do is when somebody throws something out on the table, he said somebody else adds to it. He said, we're always trying to put the cherry on the top of what somebody said. So we're expanding the thinking, the ideas. He said, number 4, he said, everyone takes action on the subject that's discussed. When we leave, we can say, okay, what's your game plan? What are you going to do with what we talked about tonight? I think it was Peter Drucker who said, you can't have meetings and accomplish something at the same time. So he said, the question I got is very simple. He said, are you having meetings or are you getting work done? And then he said, the only ones that get invited back are the ones who are applying and growing from it and contributing. He said, then we bring them back. And he said, I've got about 6 now. He said, that are just trusted colleagues. And he said, when we get together, he said, my greatest growth time is iron sharpening iron. We're all at the table. We're all pointed on, and we're putting gasoline on each other's ideas and just getting them bigger and better in the whole process. In my book, Thinking for a Change, I talk about that kind of thinking. It's called shared thinking. If you've got a good idea and I have a good idea, if I hold it to myself, I just have one good idea. If we share, we have 2 good ideas. But what happens is the moment that we share, the magic happens. And it ignites us in thinking. And what happens when you share your good idea and I share my good idea, it ends up to be 3 ideas, 4 good ideas, because it begins to multiply. And great ideas are nothing but a process of several good ideas that are put together. Wow. In my book that again, sending the manuscript today, I'll Change Your World. One of the chapters is entitled, I love this title, Transformation Happens One Table at a Time. Well, that's true in discussion too. And so during a crisis, to be the person you really want to be, I would encourage you to, take that, get you a few people that are where you are and get in discussions with. This is a perfect example. This lesson isn't just my lesson. It's Chris and I talking, and he made me a lot better. Without him, it'd be a good lesson, but it's a better lesson because he jumped in. He got to the table with me. Okay, number 5. The last thing I want to share with you is, and it's really kind of 2 words. It's a word slash another word, and that's question/reflection. To really position yourself to be who you really want to be during this crisis so you can see what you need to see, you just need to ask a lot of questions. In my book, Leadership, again, one of my major shifts was from directing to connecting. And in the beginning, I just told people what to do, and then I started asking questions, and that's when I started connecting with them. And so in the discussion, to make a discussion great, if you're going to have a table like I just talked about a moment ago, you really want to have 3 things. You want to have preparation. You want to be prepared for what you're going to discuss. So you got to have preparation, you got to have reflection, and then, of course, then you have to have action. And what I want you to understand is reflection is right in the middle. You do the preparation, and then you do then after the discussion, you come away and you reflect on what's happening before you can take your action. So there are 4 reflection questions I'm always asking myself, and I just pass them on to you because you can ask yourself if you want to spend more time reflecting, which is huge because reflection turns experience, crisis, what we're going through, into insight. Here we go. The first reflection question is, what do I feel? How do I feel right now? What do I feel? I just came through an experience. What am I feeling? Because the first influencer in our life is almost always our emotions. Almost always. Not always, but almost always. And so what am I feeling? And you want to capture that feeling as quickly as you can because it's kind of a raw, virgin, true feeling that you have in your life. Now, let me just say something about asking yourself, what am I feeling? What do I feel? Is that the fact if you reflect quite a while on something, that emotion really begins to become intuition. And that's a whole different subject I don't need to get into today. But I tell you, intuition is developing the art of intuition has a great deal with giving the time to reflect on how you feel, because it's a gut thing. Okay. So first of all, what do I feel? Secondly, what do I know? What do I know? And wow, you don't want to have feeling, emotion without what you know, knowledge. You never. But you don't want to have knowledge without emotion either. So these are put together. They're stacked. Okay, this is kind of like layered reflection. This is how you layer your reflection. What am I feeling? And this is where you pause. You just pause. Okay, what do I know? What okay, here's how I'm feeling about this, but what do I know? And then thirdly, what do I think? I do thinking third, because what thinking does, it sorts out the differences between feeling and knowing. And I want to be able now to say, okay, out of knowing, this is what I know, and out of feeling, this is what okay. Thinking allows you to kind of sort it out. And then, of course, the last question, what do I do? Let's now it's time to go into action. So just a quick illustration. I'm done for today. Like with the coronavirus, what do I feel? Well, what I feel is that that fear and uncertainty has compounded the crisis, and intuitively, now that I've had that emotion for some time, I think that fear and uncertainty will prolong the crisis. Now it's a real crisis, so I'm not trying to in any way diminish the crisis, but I'm here to tell you, fear and uncertainty, people's insecurity, scarcity, all those negative emotions we have in our life compound the problem itself. So what do I feel? Well, I feel that we have a problem, period, with the crisis in itself is a big problem, but it becomes a bigger problem when people have emotional negatives out of a dysfunctional lifestyle that just kind of puts kerosene on the problem. Well, what do I know? One of the things I know is that habits are being developed now in this crisis like no other crisis before, because of the prolongedness of the crisis. And people are living life in a different way. And you can just believe me that, people that are home that have to commute an hour to work in a city each day one way and back and forth, can I tell you right now, they're saying, home's kind of nice to do my work. And kids are online courses. They're saying, do I really need to go back to the dormitory? And do I really need to pay all this money and get all this kind of stuff? I'm just saying, habits are being formed. By the way, good habits are being formed. Bad habits are being formed. One of the things I know for sure is that if you are during this crisis forming good habits, you'll come out really much better after the crisis. And if you right now are forming bad habits during the crisis, you'll come out even worse for the wear. Trust me. The habits that we have, and we're in a prolonged issue, so we're creating habits right now, are either making us or breaking us. And what I know is the fact that not only are habits being formed, but opportunities are literally being discovered right now. It's very exciting to see them all the companies and research groups going for the vaccine, and you love that. They're all racing. Who's going to get it first? Well, all the good things you have and you and I have in our life in the area of medicine is because something bad happened, and somebody said, we got to find a medical answer to that. And what I know is this isn't going to go away quickly. I know that. It's very obvious now that even when we get some of our freedom back, until there's a vaccine for sure, that could be a reappearing process in our life. So what do I think? Well, what I think is that there's a dividing line between those who do well and those who don't do well. And this is where I think leadership really comes in. I think as a leader, you really need to do your very best to get people during this time to get themselves removed out of the middle of the picture and practice humility. I think that we need to help our people become adaptable and flexible and show them it's okay for us to move around, because we are. And I think it's very, very healthy for us with our people to teach them to be open-handed and generous and to get around and discuss it with other people on their level and spend time in reflection to getting better. So what do? I lead my people in the 5 things that I've just given you that you lead yourself. Because if this positions me well to be, again, the person I need to be so that I can see what I need to see, it also works for the people that you lead. So what you practice for yourself is you practice it, pass it on to others. And I love it. As you practice it, pass it on to others. Sit down with them. Not say, this is what I know. Say, this is what I'm learning. This is what I'm practicing. This is what I'm trying right now. There's a real sense of the spirit of connection when you approach them that way. So anyway, love and blessings. I hope that helps you. And next Monday, I'll come back and I'll give you probably 5, maybe 6 other words that'll position you well in this crisis, again, so that you can do well as we get through it. So thank you very much.
Thanks for being with us today on the Leadership When It Matters the Most program. I hope John encouraged you in your leadership just like he encouraged me. Our goal in this time of crisis is to come alongside you, add value to you so you can multiply value to others. If you go to johnmaxwell.com, you'll find free resources, tools that will help you lead in these very unique times. You'll find our podcast, John Maxwell Leadership Podcast, Minute with Maxwell, a daily word that John will bring to you, as well as our leadership blog. All of those resources on johnmaxwell.com, and they are free and ready for you to encourage you as well as you encourage others. Thanks for joining us. We look forward to seeing you soon when leadership matters the most.